Hi, folks. This is Dr. Mike, and I wanted to share just a few thoughts with you about our book reading that we started this week on Raisin in the Sun, which has had quite a bit of play in the press and different areas. So it's a very well known book, and of course, one of the classics. More of our, more in our modern day, maybe than some of the others we've read. 1959 was the publishing of it, and the author Lorraine Hansberry, and the setting is on the south side of Chicago. We're right after the World War II had ended, and the play kind of looks at African American life during a time of racial segregation, economic hardship, and early stirrings of the civil rights movement. I actually teach a history class quite often from 1950 to the present, and while these things were going on in places like South Side of Chicago or the Watts in LA or Atlanta, some of the inner city areas, America at the same time was enjoying this kind of resurgence of the economic engine after the war, of course, had to retool and get back to moving forward. But it was a very uneven restart. Most poor people, most minorities didn't get the same economic push that others did. I mean, we have 1947, President Truman starts the GI Bill for soldiers that want to go to school because he's afraid that the women that have gone to the factories to take their husband's place don't want to go back to the domesticity and the little place of raising kids and all this. But the interesting thing about that was that the women did work for 5 or 6 years. They did learn about having friends and other women and the camaraderie and all those things that came along with the money. But they saved most of their money, which was the funny thing. The men that were away in service, what little stipend they got from the military, they tended to save that as well. So when they came home, for many, and I say that probably the white population would be the best way to differentiate that had saved all their money. That was the part of the economic recovery. They built new houses, bought new cars, all kind of household appliances were new in the 50s. I mean, I was born in the 50s. I remember many of these things. Television came out in the 50s. And so as Charles Dickens said, it was the best of years. It was the worst of years for those that did pretty well. Those were good years, even though there was this cloud that hung over people with the nuclear war. For the minority groups in America, it wasn't quite all of that. And so the Raisin in the Sun, the plot, first 100 pages you're reading this week, the Younger family are waiting for a $10,000 life insurance check that was given to them following the death of a father. And every member had different dreams about how they were going to use that money. My course, the first week in history, we talk about the American dream. And so not only were the white population involved in the American dream, but other minority populations as well dreamed and wanted and desired to do better and to have more. And of course, that didn't always materialize as in other cases. The people that you're going to meet that have these different dreams, four of them I wanted to mention to you. Walter Lee, who wants to invest in a liquor store so he can achieve, greater financial independence. Mama Erlina wants to buy a house to fulfill her late husband's wish that she have a house. It's interesting when we talk about that. My grandmother in the 50s was working in a cotton mill 60 hours a week for 33 cents an hour. And she rode the back of a pickup truck to work and back in all kind of weather to get there to work, and cold and windy and rainy, everything. She did that. And she actually bought a farm, 50-acre farm and a house, and she paid for it on 33 cents a week. So that kind of brings that to my memory when I think of Mama. Benitha, Walter's sister, wants to become a doctor, wants to explore who she really is and probably get out of the south side of Chicago and away from the areas that would be where she could not be successful. Ruth, Walter's wife, is caught up in this emotional and financial strain of their cramped living conditions. They're living not only in poverty, but they're living in very tiny surroundings that we probably don't think very much of today. That reminds me of Russia when I was there in 1990 under communism. I actually, against the rules, would slip out of. I was a Bible smuggler, and I would slip out of the hotels and go to church services in the middle of barns and the middle of 45 below zero snow and all this stuff. And I went one night to the home of one of the Russian families, and it was a high-rise apartment building. They lived on like the 75th floor, and their apartment was one room. I could stand in the middle of the room, and I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'5", and I could touch all four walls just about with my hands. But in that one room apartment, there were three families living. Just one room, no bathroom. The bathroom, they had one bathroom on that floor, and it was shared by 30 apartments with that many people living in it. So you can imagine what that would have been like. Well, same kind of thing here, cramped living conditions, things of that nature. There are some things that we ought to think about while we're reading that this week. There are dreams and there are disillusionment. The title comes from Langston Hughes' poem Harlem, which is very famous from the period, which was What Happened to the Dream Deferred. The play explores how systematic racism and poverty can crush aspirations and hope and push people down and keep people from fulfilling their dreams. There's family and conflict. Younger families' love is tested by all kind of different visions of success and survival. There is identity and there's pride. Beneatha's journey reflects a search for cultural identity and self-respect, which she hoped would come from her becoming a doctor. In that day and time, it would have been a struggle to have gotten to go to medical school and become a doctor. And then, of course, there's the old gender roles that are part of everything. The play challenges traditional roles, especially through Beneatha's defiance of expectations. And so there's some things to think about there that are really, really helpful. So as you look at this in the early scenes, there are, some conversations that are there, Walter and Ruth and Beneatha and Mama, and they're in this cramped apartment where they live, and Walter's frustrated, he's pacing. He says, you see, Ruth, that check is our chance. I got a plan. Me and Bobo, we open a liquor store, we could be set for life. Ruth, who's kind of weary, says, Walter, we need groceries before we need dreams. That money's not even here yet, and you've already spent it. Beneatha enters kind of sarcastic and said, oh, wonderful. Another get-rich-quick scheme. What happened to dignity, Walter? Walter kind of snaps back and says, you think dignity pays the bills? You think being a doctor is going to fix everything? And Beneatha is kind of calm, but she's firm. She said, I think being a doctor means I don't have to beg for respect. I want more than survival. I want meaning. Mama comes in holding a plant. Children, hush. This plant, this little thing is all I got to show for hope. Your father worked himself to death for you to dream, but not to fight over dreams. Walter kind of softens a bit and says, I just want to be somebody, Mama. I want Travis to look at me and see a man. Mama placed the plant on the sunlight, in the sunlight, and said, well, then be a man, Walter, not with money, but with love and with pride. And so as you kind of close out this reading for the week, in this first 100 years, we kind of see the first 100 pages of A Raisin in the Sun. You see a family torn between hope and hardship. Hasbury doesn't just tell a story. She asks us to confront the cost of deferred dreams, the weight of identity, the power of family. The younger family's struggle is not just theirs, it's America's. And so we're getting this little microcosm. We're looking through the window, if you would, at America through their kitchen window just to see what the average family would have been like. And so I hope that this will kind of spur your thinking as you move forward and talk about these things. We'll see you next week. Thanks.